Hello and welcome to another video. With the Destiny 2 gameplay reveal right on the horizon, there are a lot of changes players are eagerly anticipating. Will we have dedicated servers across all activities, 60 FPS for every platform? How will raids be handled? What about a new loot system and how will levels and light function? Amidst this sea of questions, I want to explore 5 changes that I would like to see to subclasses in Destiny 2. Subclasses obviously play a large role in the player's engagement and investment into their character. Customizing and picking a subclass that fits their desired playstyle is very important. However, the subclasses of Destiny 1 were lacking in many areas and offer Bungie huge opportunities for improvement within Destiny 2. Before we begin, I want to say that these are just my personal opinions and do not need to reflect yours. I'd love to hear from you all about your hopes for Destiny 2 subclasses and what you are interested in seeing featured in the sequel, so leave those comments down below. Number 1 for me would have to be separate PvE and PvP balancing. We've talked about this at length on the channel before, but essentially if Bungie had the ability to balance PvE abilities separate of their PvP counterparts, it could open up a huge new world of opportunities and possibilities for subclasses. Imagine being able to stun enemies, use buff auras on your allies, abilities that would give you crowd control options, or perhaps abilities that allowed you to get mob aggro directed towards you. All of these potential scenarios can exist within Destiny 2, but only if Bungie decides to balance PvE and PvP separately of one another. Obviously, some of the ability ideas I just mentioned would never work in PvP and would create nothing but imbalanced chaos. However, Bungie should not be tied at the ankle to PvP with every ability decision they add to the game. The fantasy of having your character behave similarly across all aspects of Destiny is a noble pursuit, and one of Bungie's stated pillars that they are heavily committed to. But in the past, this has led to a lot of dissatisfaction within the player base. PvP changes inherently impact PvE players and vice versa. Just because a certain ability is performing too well in PvP shouldn't mean that it needs a nerf as well in PvE. Imagine in PvE having the option to heal teammates during a fight, or put down a large AoE on the floor that slows down enemies who cross through that pathway. The potential for more in-depth and mechanically challenging PvE fights goes through the roof if Bungie is allowed full creativity when designing PvE abilities, and not having the fear of those abilities being broken in PvP. World of Warcraft has taken this route, having separate talent options for PvE and PvP, and overall it's been quite successful, allowing for a more in-depth sandbox for both aspects of the game. Secondly, I would like to see far more in-depth perk trees within each subclass. If the player has more meaningful options to customize and design the type of character build they align with, the better the long-term engagement with the game that player will have. As it stands now, I would consider Destiny 1 perk trees to be akin to an RPG-light experience. There's just enough there for a player to be able to customize to their playstyle slightly, but not enough to really sink your teeth into. There obviously is a fine line between too little and too much. Too many perks can lead to a bloated experience that overwhelms players, and too little leads to a shallow experience. In Destiny 2, I fully expect to see much deeper sets of skill trees that offer players many potential build opportunities without feeling overly bloated or disjointed. My third desire is that of more armor pieces that work in harmony with a particular subclass. In other words, Voidwalker armor sets or pieces that grant intrinsic subclass bonuses for that user. We've already seen certain exotics play with the idea like the Shinobu's Vow, Obsidian Mind, Helm of Saint 14, and a whole lot more. I'd like to see it go a step further though and have armor effects and artwork that really resonates with that particular subclass. Imagine a full set of Sunbreaker armor on a Titan that gives off flames, and armor effects that work in tandem with the fantasy of that particular subclass, both cosmetically and from a performance stat bonus perspective. Imagine when raiding as a Warlock, not only were you receiving Warlock armor drops, but armor for the particular subclass you were running with, opening the possibility of multiple armor sets per class within each raid. This gives more incentive for the players to truly go after the sets they want for their particular favorite subclass. Fourth on my list is an obvious one: new subclasses. Recently, the GameStop merchandise leak has led players to believe that there will be no new classes added to the game in Destiny 2. While this may or may not be true, I'd like to see some radically new subclasses that play completely differently than what we're used to now. Essentially, every subclass in Destiny 1 is built around being a damage dealer. The Defender and the Night Stalker subclasses are the closest thing we have to a support role within the game. I would love to see more focus on diversity within Destiny 2 subclasses, some that truly allow for unique and unexplored roles within the Destiny universe. Perhaps it's a subclass that specializes in buffs, debuffs, auras, and abilities that aid your teammates, or maybe it's a subclass that has a ton of great crowd control and interrupt abilities. Again, I don't really want to be replying to the comments that say, "That would never work in PvP!" And you're right, it wouldn't, but that's why I had the whole thing about separate balancing in point 1. Finally, at point number 5, I want a well-represented set of story missions for each subclass that allow the player to really learn more about their particular character and invest deeper into the world and mythos surrounding them. We all know Destiny 1 was lacking massively in the story department, with excellent writing surrounding the game in the form of the Grimoire. However, very little of that Grimoire made its way into the game in a very tangible, well-presented manner. Remember, the short introductory subclass missions at the start of the Taken King? These were a small step in the right direction, but in Destiny 2, I'd like to see entire short narrative arcs for each of the subclasses. Are Voidwalkers different types of warlocks than the Sunsingers? Where did the Night Stalkers come from, and what type of guardians are they? These are the questions that would give Bungie an awesome chance to explore new territory for most players. And that's going to do it for my 5 changes that I hope to see to subclasses in Destiny 2. Didn't like my list? Well, that's just fun because it's just that, my list. I'd love to hear about some of the things you would like to see changed or staying the same within Destiny 2. The gameplay reveal is close enough that it won't be long until we know a whole lot more about the future of Destiny class design. I couldn't be more stoked. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button below the video, and if you never want to miss an upload, be sure to enable notifications. It's that small little alarm bell looking thing. Have a great weekend.